You're listening to Well, I Laughed, Part 1 of Untamed, Down to Eartha. Hello. Currently chuckling at what I wrote as not the first line of my notes, but the last line of my outline, which is, of course, then at the top of my notes. Looking forward to today's episode. Hello.
I am too, because I already know
you
what's
already
about.
know what it is, yes.
Casey bleeped it out of the episode.
Oh, fun. Okay, so they don't know.
They don't know.
Oh, I love the
well,
mystery
unless
that
they
we're
saw
serving them.
the reel that I was talking about.
Sure. But before we get to that, how's it going?
You know, we're living in a capitalist hellscape. Every day seems worse than the last. And do we have a constitution? I don't know.
Are you the students I disciplined in period 4?
Probably.
Probably. No, period 4 is great. I feel that. Also, January was the longest month of my life, I feel like.
I thought it lasted a solid year.
Yeah.
Like every day I thought about, have you seen the John Mulaney sketch where he talks about a horse in the hospital?
Yes.
Every day. That is getting increasingly more and more relatable, especially as Trump continues to do whatever the hell this is. It's
seen, felt, heard, understood.
It's actually shocking the people that have not put together that he's like a dictator. Like we're very quickly moving
or is
towards
like trying to do
authoritarian.
that.
Yeah.
Isn't even passing things through Congress.
Nope.
Yep.
I saw an interview with Bernie Sanders and Anderson Cooper where poor Bernie, that man needs to retire, but he can't. He's like the only thing holding together like the far left. But he was like, he was talking about how like the USAID just got like cut or whatever it was.
Yeah.
He was like, that is funds from Congress. So like if you like Congress gave those funds. So if you want to cut it, like come to Congress. It's just he was so frazzled. It's like this poor guy has too much on his plate.
I obviously with the curse of my history degree education have a lot I could say. Instead I just have 2 little quips. First, all of the silly little treats I was having in January to survive January have now just become silly little treats I'm having to celebrate that I survived January. And the second quip is that there's a Republican president. Lady Gaga is about to drop a new rock pop album.
Oh.
So if history repeats itself, you know what that means.
Nope.
In 3 years, I'm going to come out to my parents. Which is really what I have felt like sometimes in my classroom, right? Kids, you know, some of my kids especially have reasons to be concerned about, if anything else, the rhetoric, let alone the policy. And, you know, you make space to hold like their actual like fears and like legitimize them.
It's much less fun than holding space for the lyrics of Defying Gravity.
I know. We have a kid's speech this year on gravity, and we've decided to title it Defining Gravity.
Oh, that's good.
I know. I'm really good at that stuff.
That's
Anyways,
good.
I'm like, oh, this is your first Republican administration. Oh, it's about to be so bad, but that's also going to be so artistic and good.
I sometimes forget how young they are. I feel really old.
Yeah.
You know?
I remember almost all of the Bush administration.
I remember the last bit of it.
Yeah.
I remember when Obama got elected because I was still in like religious elementary school, and people like all the kids are obviously like only have the political beliefs that their parents do, so they're all mad that Obama won at that point.
Right.
Couldn't be me now, but the teacher was like walking us through the election and like how he got elected and all of this. And I remember people were like drawing like devil horns and stuff on the candidates, the Democratic candidates only. And I was like, who was I? It could not be me now.
Just a biracial girl on the on the suburbs of Denver, you know, which even in 2008, not a conservative place.
No. I mean, conservative back then meant a very different thing than it did today. I can't believe that those high schoolers like don't really remember the first Trump administration.
A child today was like, they yelled at a senior, "What were you, born in 2003?"
No.
And I was taken aback because I was like, God, that'd make them so young. And then I did math and it would make them 22.
They would be in in college or graduating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's unpleasant.
So that's unpleasant. was it?
So it's like, there's a lot of bad news coming from politics, but then also personal assaults. So
yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I just have a really hard day and I'm like, but also everything else sucks.
Yeah. And then I kind of feel like the last big update in my life right now, because y'all hear from me regularly, is that I'm about to pull a Beth from Little Women. That's right. I'm about to go to the sea to recuperate. I'm flying to Seattle next week to go to a concert.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'm going to the desert for a wedding, but like, it's kind of like my big whirlwind tour.
I made Grant start telling me when he's leaving because turns out he has a job and I do need to know these things. So I have his travel calendar and he put it on and I was like, holy shit, I'm
gone
gone
all the time. Yeah.
You're just gone.
like
the one weekend you're here, I'm not.
The best way I can summarize all of this is I was getting a window replaced at my house. And because every single time the window replacement company was like, can we come here? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, can we come this time?
Right.
And I was like, yes. And they're like, can we come at this third totally different time? I was like, yes. And so they came, they measured, then they came again to try to install, ordered the wrong window. So we're going to be back. And after that second visit, they called me to schedule the third and also to let me know that they were pretty sure someone was living at my house. And I was like, me.
Yeah, it's me. I'm there.
I'm the one that lives. It's like there is a for sale sign out front, but there is someone occupying it, and it is me. It is the primary. I understand that based off my availability of the home, it feels like I shouldn't be, but yeah, I just say busy.
I love that they were like, sir, someone's squatting here.
Someone's squatting here. By squatting, we mean roasted
and
a whole chicken last night.
On the phone.
Yes, exactly. No, I'm not even joking. Like, I think the thing that he was picking up was like, there's a rotisserie chicken in here and clearly an attempt at some sides,
Clearly an attempt at some sides.
I'm eating basically all my meals standing up still right now. So it's okay.
Okay. Well, that's
even today,
not sad at all.
I was even today at school, even my lunch.
Yeah.
Ham sandwich in hand. They're looking at this kid and being like, no, I need the Statue of Liberty to be like sexy, but like in a mature way. If you're going to pull off this episode of, what's it called? It's that one. No, it's on the tip of my tongue. It's on Netflix. Nick Kroll.
Big Mouth.
Yes. Thank you. The episode Everybody Bleeds.
Sure.
When Jesse communicates with the
any episode I've watched of Big Mouth has been against my will.
Okay.
So
that's what's happening in my life. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I'm also really looking forward to today's episode.
Think about what. Oh, I did write down a note because there was something funny. Okay. Two things. We've had some big execs in the house or in the office over the last week. And then last week, a bunch of like higher ups in one of my clients my personal clients was in. I wasn't meeting with them, but they were in, which meant like all of the higher ups on the project across my firm were in too. So people I had met, but like don't really see in person a lot. And at one point, the guy that like runs the project out of like the Southeast, like walks into the kitchen and I'm microwaving my lunch. And the thing about our microwave in my office is it's like under the counter and also is like weirdly powerful. So like anything I would normally microwave for 90 seconds, I can only microwave for like 45 or else it like explodes. And so I'm crouched on the ground behind this counter, like kind of on my phone, but also watching the microwave.
I love you. That cannot be good for your health. I'm saying that right now.
Oh, I mean,
Lydia and I basically don't even use our microwaves. That
okay, boomer.
To sit in
Calm
front
down.
of it cannot be good for your health. These zennials, I swear.
But he just like he's clearly going for like a sparkling water or something in the fridge, and he kind of like opens the fridge and looks at me and then looks away and then back again, and he's like, what are you doing?
As it looks like you're trying to start a fire with your cell phone.
He thought I was hiding behind the counter because he didn't see the microwave there. And I was like, lunch. And he was like,
I'm staring at my food cooking. Oh, good. Okay, well, rock on.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, oh, cool, okay, yeah. And then this week we had some higher ups from like the firm in the office, and like the guy that leads our office, the Denver office, was in. He usually works out of a different like office in the area, and so he comes down and we're like kind of we work on the 9th floor, and so we have a really cool view of Denver, and then on the other side of like the Flatirons kind of, and it was really smoggy for whatever reason that day, and I was like, he was talking to me and we were like talking about the weather as you do, you know, and I was like, wow, you can't even see Denver. And he was like, oh yeah, it's crazy because like you can't see Denver, but you can see the Flatirons like super clearly. And I was like, yeah, it's pretty ominous. And he starts walking away and he goes like, yeah, maybe there's an asteroid coming. And I went without missing a beat, we can only hope. He did the same like look away and then look back at me like,
sorry.
Oh.
It's just crazy to hear you say that as the army of stuffed animals you've been crocheting stares down at me like Toy Story 3, Too Fast, Too Furious.
I'm making an army. I am making
I can
slowly but surely we will take over.
She knitted a small little chicken and it's currently hiding behind another one, so you only see half of its
phoenix.
face.
How dare you?
Well, you only see half of the phoenix's face, like it's lingering.
Yeah.
If you could return, the song "Linger" from Cranberries. That
Cool.
joke kills in the classroom right now. I want you to know.
Okay.
They all know "Linger" because of TikTok.
Sure.
Hey. No, but for reals, I would love to get started because I want to tell you the note I wrote at the bottom of my outline. I wrote in all capital letters and then bolded to make sure I didn't forget. And I did kind of forget, but you never really forget this. The title is Include Banger Quotes from the Emperor's New Groove. So what's your favorite quote from the classic Disney movie, The Emperor's New Groove?
Oh my God. 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 It's the villager from the from the place who was leaving the square with Cusco on the back of his van.
It's Cusco. Kronk connecting all the dots together.
Yeah.
See,
obviously, I had memorized it like a couple weeks ago just for like shiggles, and
Sure.
I've forgotten it now. But
for my brother and I, it was always pull the lever, Kronk, wrong lever. And then me and Jacob once did a water slide race up at a hot springs up in Steamboat Springs.
Yeah.
Because you never have to grow old if you don't want to. And we both at one point when we like, you like swing and like dive into the slide, I think we both yelled at the same time, wrong lever.
Beautiful.
So there's that one. I know. There are some people you're just supposed to find.
my other one is just boom, baby.
Yes. Okay. Wow. You're choosing a lot of like tertiary, secondary quotes.
Because when I tell you that is like my favorite animated movie ever, I have been both Yzma and Cusco for Halloween.
I have definitely, I think, seen the Yzma outfit before.
The Cusco one is way better.
Maybe it was the Cusco one that I saw.
Yeah.
But so then my other favorite quote is, "Ha! You should have thought of that before you became peasants."
Yes.
And then the person is literally asking for food so they don't starve.
Yeah.
And so you already know where this is going.
Yes,
you
I
guys
do.
might be hoping you know where it's going, and you're correct. Today, we are going to be talking about the indomitable, the incredible, the truly one of a kind, Eartha Kitt.
Fuck yeah.
I know, and I'm so excited about it.
Really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, my brain just totally farted.
I saw it happen too.
Yeah. I released a survey, like an audience survey to
cool.
our patrons today, and I'm going to release it to like the rest of the audience probably sometime next week. A couple of the requests that we've gotten have been put trigger warnings at the beginning of like before the story even starts.
Okay.
And then like vague references to sources, kind of like we did.
At the
forever ago.
start?
Yeah. Or at some point.
Great.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen this episode.
Oh, that's okay.
But
Just
the
letting
sources
you know.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about Eartha Kitt. Eartha Kitt, you know who Eartha Kitt is, even if the name isn't ringing a bell. If you are a millennial or a zennial or a Gen Zer, you know Eartha Kitt because she was famously
Yzma.
the voice of Yzma from The Emperor's New Groove. She was also Madame Zamboni in the movie Holes, starring Shia LaBeouf, based off the book holes that we all had to read in 8th or 9th grade, depending on your school district. She did a lot of voice work. She appeared on a lot of television shows just like as herself. And then she also had like a surprisingly successful kind of later in life music career, including Santa Baby and C'est Si Bon, and a couple other stuff. I know.
I didn't know that.
She had a really, really fascinating life, and I'm really excited to get into it. I can do the first thing that our listeners have asked for and kind of give our audience some trigger warnings here at the start of the entire episode. As with so many misunderstood women, especially misunderstood women of color, there are going to be references in the story to both emotional neglect and either physical abuse or physical neglect. And then, of course, discussions of like how institutional racism impacted a biracial woman.
That's not applicable at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me know if it ever becomes applicable for you. And
especially today.
Did something in the news happen today? If so, I don't want to know, but I'm holding space for you.
I'm just increasingly getting more and more concerned about my immigrant mother.
Yeah.
So.
I 100% understand that.
Anyway.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay, I was like, I'm not gonna be the next person to say anything
No.
right now. Okay. So, Eartha Mae Kitt was born on January 17th, 1927 in South Carolina under circumstances marked by hardship and uncertainty. She was of mixed race heritage, the daughter of a Black, potentially indigenous Cherokee woman by the name of Annie Mae Keith, and an unknown white father. Here's a couple of things I need to tell you. Trigger warning now for a reference to assault. So it's assumed that Eartha Kitt's, I'd like probably say like plus 60. It's assumed that Eartha Kitt's biological father was the white son of the plantation owners that her mom worked on as a sharecropper.
Okay.
And her middle name, Keat, is from their name, Keat, which was a held over tradition from the institutions of slavery and then things like that, that like part of the plantation owner's name, regardless of their biological connection to you, made their way into your name.
Sharecroppers were something that happened after slavery was abolished,
Yes.
right?
So that's another really great question too. Because the federal government failed to deliver its promise of like economic salvation for formerly enslaved Americans after the Civil War, a lot of them had no money, no maps, no real training or education as to like where to go. So after the Civil War ended in the American South and the institution of slavery itself was abolished, many of the formerly enslaved went from being enslaved to something called sharecroppers, where for the privilege of living in the same homes you were enslaved in, you could work in the same fields you worked in, be not protected by the justice system, and paid a nominal amount of money. An amount of money that was actually oftentimes hijacked when your children needed things like new clothes or things like that. And in fact, in some circumstances, when like Black Americans were enslaved, there was an economic incentive for white enslavers to like keep them relatively healthy and fed. Now, they actually didn't have any incentive to take care of the people that worked on their plantations because they weren't being given any monetary value for the health of their workers. And so in some places, things got worse. In some places, things got better because they were literally not enslaved and people did leave, right? But that'll come later. So that's what sharecroppers were. That's what the practice of sharecropping is. And it basically kept all the like vestiges of slavery deep into the 20th century.
Were they technically allowed to leave? Although they probably
technically
didn't because of...
Technically definitely allowed to leave. And then the question is like, how far can you walk? Because like, how do you save money for a train ticket? And then you arrive to some of these major American cities in the South, like Atlanta, Memphis, sometimes Nashville and New Orleans, where you could get there relatively easily. It wasn't until kind of the early 1900s that you see something called the Great Migration, where Black Americans left the South in droves because northern factories were desperate for workers, especially around the start of World War II. And so you see during that Great Migration, Black Americans settling in places like Chicago and Detroit and New York City because there were industrial jobs that needed workers and they could leave. And so that is actually why many of these great northern cities that are in states that never had enslavement now have large Black populations. Okay, great. That was 5 minutes not in my notes. That was wonderful.
That's what I mean. Another piece of feedback we've already gotten is I love when Grant uses the curse of his history education.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I just wrote sharecroppers and then moved my little happy ass along. So
and
thank
that's why
you
I'm here.
for that question. Okay, so that meant her mother is working out in the fields, almost always cotton, and then her and her younger sister were at home alone a lot of times. It looks like her younger sister, they had different biological parents, and it looks like her younger sister's father was Black, and so her younger sister is not mixed race, but she is. And when her mother will get into relationships later on in her childhood, her younger sister will be treated well, and she won't be.
Do we do we talk at all about the Cherokee, the maybe Cherokee heritage?
No, because it looks like her white biological father making her half Black, half white is actually what kind of makes her presence uneasy for a lot of these people that she's raised around.
Okay, so just like the fact that she looks different, people kind of associated her.
Trigger warning, plus 15 now for the use of a racial slur. The term at the time for mixed race children in the South was yellow.
Right.
So almost everyone who was around her as a child referred to her as yellow.
But what you mentioned something about she was like maybe Cherokee.
Her mom, yeah, that's like.
Oh, okay, that's all I was. That's what I was asking.
The mixed race part specifically is the Black mom, white dad combination.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Kitt's childhood was difficult from the start. Her mother, who worked as a sharecropper, struggled to provide for her, and Eartha was often ostracized because of her light skin. At an early age, she was sent to live with relatives, a move that would begin a cycle of displacement and mistreatment. It's not necessarily specified who it is because Eartha Kitt herself, never in her entire life totally named the person that did this.
Fair enough.
But a kind of distant relative. Plus 30 now for mentions of family.
We're starting off strong.
It gets so much better, her life.
I know
very
it does
quickly,
because I've seen photos and stuff.
But early on,
yeah,
okay, plus 30 seconds now. Kind of like a great aunt or like a second cousin or whatever, essentially kind of has to take them in because they wake up one morning and Eartha and her sister are like on their front porch and their mom's not around and are like emotionally abusive. Eartha has to do way more work than the other children in the house, both the like children of the family and her sister, right? She oftentimes gets bullied into doing the work of other people as well. Her mom is in and out of her life a lot, right? I think she loved her mom in the way that she could, but I don't think she ever really had a good relationship with her mom. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think from what I'd read, I think she understood why her mom did what she did. Okay. But she definitely never felt like she had a strong relationship with her mother and that was an emotional connection that later on to adult life she would seek.
Okay.
So basically then at one point, Eartha's aunt gets wind that you got to come get this girl. Like they might kill her down here.
Oh my
Not
gosh.
outright, but just like the way they're treating her. If she keeps getting like passed from home to home, like she's everyone's like house servant and errand boy or whatever, right? Like this girl might not be here long if you don't come get your niece. And so her aunt sends for her, and for the first time in her life, in the early 1930s, she moves from the South to New York City.
Ooh.
Kitt moves to Harlem, New York City during her like early teenage years to live with her aunt. There, she enrolled in the New York School of Performing Arts, where she discovered her passion for singing, dancing, and acting. Her natural talent and striking presence quickly set her apart, in her early years, she won a scholarship to study with the Catherine Dunham Dance Company, an opportunity that exposed her to the professional world of performance.
That's such a wild shift.
Correct. And
did that happen just like...
it took over a couple years,
Okay.
and I have some context for you, but
Okay.
I wanted to say
Yeah.
that because I can actually tell you the source for the next couple of like
Right.
color stories I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
There's this great podcast. I always find them on YouTube. My La Maupine episode was based a lot on her.
I know.
Her name's
I have to
Kaz.
hyperlink all your sources.
Okay, cool. So Kaz is a great story in this, and she focuses actually a lot on this portion of Eartha's life and gives us some really interesting stories. So first, one of the first things Eartha experiences when she moves to New York is friendship.
Oh.
I know.
Oh.
Yeah. And her aunt,
How old is she?
early teens. I
Okay.
didn't get like hard dates or anything
Yeah.
like that, but all of this is going to happen before she's 18. So she moves to New York. She makes friends for the first time. She's in the charge of her aunt who, spoiler alert, is not adept to raise a child.
Well, yeah. I
Right.
wouldn't be either.
No, same, but like would be mad at Eartha for laying around the house. And so Eartha would get a
Right.
job, and then would be mad at Eartha for not giving over all that money to her, right? Like regularly experienced bouts of hunger, things like that. Was regularly kicked out of her aunt's home at various moments as she would like live on the street, but didn't want to burden any of her new friends or anything like that. So she in high school and her teenage years gets a job working in like this like kind of fabric factory, and there she would sing and tell stories to like pass the time, and that made her all of these friends, and that what kind of starts this like motivation for her to audition for this dance company,
Aw.
the Catherine Dunham Dance Company, or whatever I said exactly. Yes, the Catherine Dunham Dance Company.
I don't know enough about dance, but sure.
So it ends up being this like huge break. She's this scrappy girl who learned at an early age that like if anyone's going to do anything for her, it is Eartha Kitt that is going to do something for her. And so she goes to this dance audition, thinking it's a singing audition, not really realizing it's a dance audition, and is like, I don't know how to dance. She's had like no training.
I've seen her calves.
Yes, right.
Girl, she learned at some point.
Literally born with it,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not Maybelline.
Yeah.
She was born with it. And she's like, well, I have literally nothing else to lose. I'm just gonna
do
dance.
it, yeah.
I'm gonna try to figure it out. I'm gonna dance. And as the story went, she dances in this audition. She's in the corner, lacing up her shoes, kind of moping, right? And the teacher comes over and says, be there by 8 on Monday. And she gets her break into it, which of course, since we like know the story of Eartha Kitt, like we're not shocked that she gets the break, but it really does happen like that, right? It's not like she was born into a family that it was going to happen, right? Or that she was even attending a school where like, it's like a pipeline or anything like that. She auditions for this company, she gets in, and then life really changes for her pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because now her job is performing. And for the rest of her life, her job's going to be performing.
I love that.
And that's what Eartha Kitt was supposed to do.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yes, always.
I saw something today because obviously the administration like banned trans athletes, I think. I don't know what day it is because everything's a blur.
Right.
But someone tweeted that like if we're going to pretend that trans athletes have an unfair advantage, then we also just need to ban anyone who grew up with money. You had extra time, you had money for a private trainer. Sorry. Can't
Really
compete.
true. Really
Yeah.
compelling. Also, the ban on gender affirming care meant that any health clinic inside DPS had to stop administering gender affirming care on like Monday because it receives federal funding.
I love it here.
Uh-huh.
It's so funny.
Just-
But Eartha Kitt defied the odds.
Yes. Sorry, no. But like I got that request and it was like, kid A, can I go to the bathroom? Kid B, I can't get gender affirming care at the health clinic anymore.
Oh my God.
Kid C, can I go to like the vending machine to get some chips? And like it's all being said to me at the same time.
And also with the same level of urgency.
Correct. And there's just this like fire hose of information. Teachers, you get it. But like there's always this like fire hose of information, and never when a kid is having a true crisis is there not 10 other kids that need something so stupid and menial.
Right.
So it was like, yes, I am so sorry. No, you don't need chips. Right? Like yes, maybe no. Okay. So she gets part of this dance company and she starts to have a couple of love affairs, specifically with white men. who will
Well,
love
that'll
her
happen.
and never really date her publicly.
Yeah, tokenize her or
Yeah.
fetishize her or
My mom I love you, babe, but my mom won't let me marry a black woman, right?
yeah. Yep.
And so that sucks. At one point, she's with this dance company. They're down in Mexico doing a bunch of shows. And she falls in love with this like stagehand or whatever who like
Ooh.
loves her and who is, you guessed it, engaged to someone else.
Because he trusted
love
one more time.
Well, he really did, because he then left his fiance, moved to LA to follow Eartha Kitt, and then he was like, but my mom will never let me marry a woman of color.
Why
And
are you here?
Eartha's like, you could have just broken up with your fiance.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't need to be the reason. Like, this has been cute, but like,
Get out.
Yeah, go on, get out of here, please. So her association with Dunham proved to be a turning point. Kitt toured internationally with the company, performing across Europe and the United States and North America. During these travels, she honed her multilingual abilities, learning to sing in several languages. For instance, Santa Baby, famously in
English.
very good, and
I was
C'est Bon
panicked.
is famously in.
I want to say French.
You should say French.
Okay.
I mean, not with French, because you know my thoughts on French. But
Yeah. I'm not gonna.
we were at the tournament on Saturday,
Yeah.
and one of the co-coaches was like, "Oh my God, Grant, blah blah blah, nice to meet you. This is my fiance." And I just shake out, I like extend my hand and I go, "Fiance, what an interesting name." And then they're
Good
like,
for you.
I know, thank you.
Good
Right?
for you.
Honest to God, so proud of it.
Yeah.
And everyone laughs and he goes, "My name's John or Bob or Tim or
Yeah,
whatever it ends
whatever
up
it is.
being." It's I do know it, Emily. I know it, but like I'm not gonna tell them because I don't know how to believe. No, I'm kidding. Okay. So she develops this ability to sing in multiple languages. She is this scrappy girl who I think is like really kind of truly getting an education for the first time. And she's like in love with it, right? Because her childhood was not marked by like great education in like the sharecropper South, right?
Right.
She learned hard work and like discipline, and she learned what it meant to be hungry.
Right.
And
Yeah.
like both for success and literal food, and takes this opportunity for what it's worth and experiences as much as possible. And I think this trip especially kind of like detaches her a little bit from the United States. Because there's going to be a couple times in Eartha Kitt's life where she has to flee the country.
Oh my God.
More to come on that later.
Jesus.
But it's like, I think this was a woman who had already learned independence. And then like during her first true, real educational journey in her life, it's happening all over the world. And she's like, oh, I could literally live anywhere. I'm learning French right now. I got a white boy to fall in love with me in Mexico, which is harder than you think it is. Like
Grant would know.
I think everyone should know at least once in their life. And it's gonna make her kind of hard to pin down, right? It gives her this sense of independence, even when she's famous, that I think other famous celebrities struggle with.
Yeah.
She's
a
also
mystery.
She's a mystery. She speaks multiple languages.
Yeah.
She has this insane, sexy confidence to her.
Yeah,
right?
she does.
She is biracial, so like there's certain tokenism aspects of it, right? Like she's coming up in the 1940s. It's like the end of 1940s, early 1950s at this point, and so she's getting called exotic. She's getting called cosmopolitan. You know, all those fun words you'd read in a magazine for not white.
Yep. I've heard them all.
I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have.
My favorite. Well,
I was about to ask, and then I was like, that's so insensitive, Grant. So thank you. Please share.
I don't get like asked, or I don't get called like those kinds of things. I feel like we've evolved a little bit as a society,
Good.
at least. But people like to guess, and I'm like, you could ask. Or like, where are you from? That classic question. And it's like, here. And they're like, no, but where are you from? Here. And then they're like, where are your parents from? I'm like, here.
Tennessee.
Yeah. Not anymore.
I think Florida now, right?
Nope. Oh, wait. There is one more.
Go ahead. I gotta find myself anyways.
My history teacher in 7th grade was very kind. He was like a very sweet man, but he was like very old and white. And I think he meant it with the best of intentions, but he dead ass, like, I walked up to his desk to ask him a question, and he went, "What are you?" And I went, What?
Holiday hoobie whatty?
7th grade me already had so much anxiety talking to anyone in like a position of authority, so my heart is already pounding. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And he's like, yeah, what are you? And I was like, that didn't help. That was the same question.
Lutheran.
Yes. Yes. A 7th grader.
So much. But I'm working to stay on task because I just found my spot again, and I do not trust my ability to re-find it a third time. Okay, so she's globetrotting, she's learning, she's clearly now in the entertainment industry, and also it doesn't seem like Kristen Dunham of the Kristen Dunham Dance Company, kind of giving me Abby Lee Miller vibes a little bit. Just doesn't necessarily seem super excited about her.
Of the dance moms,
right? Thank you,
Yeah,
thank you. My guess didn't have enough research to get fully into this, so I'm just fully speculating here. I am gonna just kind of tiptoe on the edge of libel. My guess is that Kristen Dunham didn't love the fact that a bilingual, multiracial woman from the American South who basically taught herself how to read was more popular than a lot of her other dancers.
Womp womp.
I know,
Grow up.
crazy.
Boo.
And they kept going to all these countries that didn't have segregation.
We have to stay in the same hotel.
How was I supposed to feel superior? Working harder? So, her association with the Kristen Dunham Dance Company proved to be it's now a bit. Proved to be No. I am in the sentence. Proved to be a turning point. Kitt toured internationally with the company, performing across Europe and the United States during these I said that sentence. Despite her success, Kitt never forgot her painful childhood.
Right.
She later spoke about how being a multiracial child in the segregated South made her feel like an outsider, a theme that influenced her artistry. The rejection and hardship she faced as a child instilled in her a fierce independence and a refusal to conform.
Hell yeah.
Qualities that became evident in her performances and her public persona, which is definitely, I think, what she is known for. Yeah. She is known for being Eartha Kitt. She is not defined by any role.
I didn't even know she danced.
Yeah.
Or sang. All I knew was I loved her.
I thought she was solely known for her work in the 82-minute animated movie Emperor's New Groove. And in many ways she is.
Yeah. And then that one late night TV interview that I saw on Instagram Reels.
Good. Well, you're about to see it again, so I hope you're excited. We have a couple of interviews pulled, just two, but by the early 1950s, Eartha Kitt had transitioned from being a talented dancer to an acclaimed singer and actress, gaining fame for her sultry voice and provocative style. She became a sought-after performer in Parisian nightclubs, where she caught the attention of entertainment legends like Orson Welles, who famously called her
Nikki Arnstein.
Here I am.
That's what it feels like.
Well, Orson Welles, aka Nikki Armstrong, called Eartha Kitt, quote, the most exciting woman in the world. The most woman in the world.
The most woman. I mean, that too. She was very comfortable in her sexuality. The woman.
The most exciting woman in the world. This early acclaim propelled her into a global spotlight, marking the beginning of a trailblazing career. So, 1950, Orson Welles calls her the most exciting woman in the world. And this is because he had given her the role of Helen of Troy in his staging of Dr. Faustus when she's 23 years old.
Yeah.
So Orson Welles and some of his other big time entertainment friends loved her, thought she was hilarious, invited her over.
Yeah.
She'd hang out all the time. And then in an interview, two things. First, someone goes, Orson Welles said you were the most interesting woman in the world. And Eartha Kitt goes, what do you mean were?
That's the one you
see. And she has just these intense eyebrows.
And she puts this man on his back foot immediately.
And he loves it.
Oh, he wants to be dominated a little bit.
Not to be that guy who gets a shtick and then sticks to it.
Yeah.
But thank you. It gives huge Dr. Ruth energy. Like
Yes.
these big, powerful men invite this like legitimately
Tiny,
smaller than
yeah.
average woman who just like bulldoze them over.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
One with kindness and one with sheer sex appeal.
Yes, exactly. But then so then in that interview, Eartha Kitt goes on to explain, she goes, oh yeah, Orson and his friends invite me over. And, you know, after a couple drinks, they just stand up and, you know, start telling stories and they're masters of the universe and things like that. And I think they thought I was the most interesting woman in the world because I knew when to shut up. I knew when to not say anything.
Say it in the mirror, Grant.
It's my episode. And I love that. And I think she was so comfortable with like looking at power and poking power
Right.
and was very much aware of the way it permeated. I mean, she's only 23 when these stories are happening and she already has this worldliness to her.
Right.
So she's cast in her first big movie as Helen of Troy when she's 23 years old. 2 years later, she was cast in the review New Faces of 1952. I need to explain to you all what this is. So there was a time before we had the internet or Instagram Reels.
What was there?
Or I guess YouTube Shorts. I don't know what the equivalent is. But
We also post on there.
great. That's wonderful news. So if you want to discover new talent, like companies, theater companies, production companies would put out reviews where a bunch of talented people would sing songs, do monologues, do, you know, one act plays or like skits or whatever. And it would be like this package of entertainment that you could then like mail out and people could buy and stuff and you could bring home. And it's like, oh yeah, we got like the new. And she makes this huge splash in 1952 in the New Faces review, right? She's exciting, she's sultry, she's sexy, she's confident. She has that classic Eartha Kitt voice that you've never heard anywhere else. And she's talented. She's the most talented person on the screen. And it completely sets her off. She already had a little bit of movie experience too with her role in 1950.
Right.
So that helped like put her in position to like take advantage of that. But she just absolutely catches fire. She performed Monotonous, Uskadata, Setsi Bom, and Santa Baby. And that's the first time she performs kind of her like classic Santa Baby. It'll get recorded a couple years later. And that's still the version that we hear every Christmas.
Yeah.
It's now a 75-year-old recording.
It's crazy.
Though it is often alleged that Welles and Eartha Kitt had an affair during her 1957 run of Shinbone Alley. And I was like, nope, half your titles are in French. You can't be Shinbone Alley. Kitt categorically denies that she had a sexual relationship with Orson Welles. In June of 2001,
Oh my
he's
gosh.
dead. Everyone's dead but Eartha. She goes, I never had sex with Orson Welles. Just cuts to it. This is with an interview with Vanity Fair in 2001. Quote, it was a working situation and nothing else. She's in a couple other films in the 1950s. And then that continues into the 1960s. She's on top of the world.
Yeah.
She's this fixture on late night shows. And then she gets her first big early break when she is cast as Catwoman in the television series Batman. Yes. That's probably how you know her.
I forgot about
She's not even the first Catwoman, but she is kind of regularly the first Catwoman people remember.
Yeah.
So, Eartha Kitt, Anne Hathaway, same club.
Honestly,
And everyone forgets Anne Hathaway played Catwoman in
I
Revenge
never
of the
do.
Dark Knight. You never forget about that?
no. Did you see her in that leather suit? I am bisexual.
That's so true.
Yeah.
And it's a great movie. It's a fantastic movie.
I don't remember anything else about that movie. I'm not gonna lie to you.
That really tracks.
Yeah, I remember Anne Hathaway.
In 1956, she publishes her first autobiography titled Thursday's Child. And here's how cool Eartha Kitt is. Thursday Child will then inspire David Bowie's song Thursday Child, written in 1999 when Eartha Kitt is still alive. And at that
Whoa.
point, like 72. And David Bowie's like, let me write this song about this awesome lady.
Oh my god.
And so our first of two interviews for our listening pleasure comes from the 1950s, 60s. It's definitely the Instagram video that you've seen.
Oh, incredible.
I knew it before you came on.
Maybe you should.
I'm having a little difficulty at the moment. So the old disco, are you a disco goer yourself?
I am not a disco queen.
It's like that's just the voice of
You
Yzma.
know what I mean.
I do know what you mean. But all those years, not those years, a couple of weeks ago, Orson Welles said you were the world's most exciting woman.
What do you mean, were?
Okay, let me see this real quick. There's a part I specifically want to jump to. Okay, so I'm going to have you start the video right here, just so you know. I don't know if it caught fully on the audio. The interviewer just asked Eartha Kitt, I've heard you frighten men.
Yeah.
Go ahead and press play and just narrate what Eartha Kitt starts doing with her body.
Oh, yeah. I love this.
You know, a man would sort of...
She takes her shoes off and puts her feet in his lap.
Live studio audience,
Yes.
like 1961.
And he starts giving her a foot rub.
Do you think that...
And then he realizes what he's doing, it looks like.
And mentions his wife.
Have you seen a man out of your week before? This goes to the show. The old lamb giving you a bit of trouble. Yes. Your organs are in good condition.
Thank you.
Do you feel that there are any real men left in Hollywood? Down.
She's rolling her foot and he's
Do
stopping.
I think there are any real men left in Hollywood?
Well, yeah.
It's very rare to find a real man anymore. That's why I'm looking at you.
And whatever face you thought she was making when she just said, and that's why I'm looking at you. It's exactly the face like Yzma, the character, would make.
Yes, it's all eyebrows. And there's one more thing I want to point out too, which you don't necessarily appreciate the first time you watch it because the chatter is so great, but it absolutely sets the mood. She's not like in business casual.
No, yeah.
Like Nicole Kidman goes on Stephen Colbert now and is wearing like some like taupe turtleneck up to her chin, right?
She looked great.
And she's not necessarily wearing like an evening gown either.
No, she's wearing like a
Sexy ballerina costume, but for the day.
kind of like 1920s, like what you would wear to like a Gatsby party today, but like shorter.
The clothing, and this is said with admiration. This is not a judgment. This clothing starts just below her collarbone and ends just below her hip bone.
Yes.
Like it covers up none of her arms or legs, and she knows it.
And she also does not care. She's not adjusting anything. She's she's
enjoying
iconic.
herself.
Yeah.
Okay, so then in the midst of all this fame, love finds a way. Kitt marries John Williams McDonald.
That's a horrible name.
Well, guess what John Williams McDonald does?
Opens McDonald's.
Real estate. She's like the most exciting woman in the world.
And he's like
a realtor.
Yeah.
In Connecticut.
That's unfortunate. That is unfortunate.
He's not even like a fake New York real estate person like Donald Trump or like a real LA real estate person like Selling Sunset. He's a Connecticut real estate person. They are married in June 9th, 1960. Their daughter, Kitt McDonald, was born November 26th, 1961. Okay. It checks out.
Yeah,
conception after marriage. So Kitt, the baby, is born in November 1961.
I love Kitt for a kid.
I low-key do too. Yeah, like it's such a good name.
Like, gender neutral?
Gender neutral but strong. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
10 out of 10.
Kit Warner, Kit Thomas. It works.
Let's start integrating it into conversations and just see if we can get somebody to name their child.
We should just create a Kit that we've met, just you and I.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, no. We were hanging out with Kit the other day. And it's just when we go get Aperol spritzes.
Yes.
With Kit.
Yeah, for our work meetings that we're now having monthly.
100%. Are we having those monthly?
Depends on your schedule.
Okay. I was like, I don't know if I have that availability for the next 2 months.
Bi-monthly.
We'll talk. Okay. So they're married in 1960, baby in 1961, separate in 63, and divorced in 64. It is the only marriage of Eartha Kitt's life, but it produces the love of her life, her daughter.
Okay. I'm going to interrupt you for a second. My company has a really fun history of people quitting and then coming back. So there's a guy that I interviewed with when I first interviewed for them in 2020. And then the company actually went on a hiring freeze, so I didn't end up working for them until 21. And when I came back in 21, he was gone. And then like 2 weeks later, I got like an email that was like, so-and-so's coming, like first days in the office. And
Welcome
I was
back
like,
to the team.
I was like, what? Like they interviewed, like I remember asking them questions in the interview room. And then I find out, I think that's like the second time he's done it.
Hilarious.
That he's left and then come back. And then when the higher ups were in.
Who says you can't go home again?
Yeah. There's a guy that got hired a little bit after me that quit like a few months ago, and he just came back. And then when the higher ups were in like this past week, one of them was like, I hold the record for the like amount of time between leaving and coming back, and it was literally like a week.
Oh.
That other company.
What kind of weird and unhealthy relationship does he have with his current workplace, or how bad were the red flags?
I
at
think
the place
it's
he went
how
to?
bad the other the other place
happens.
were.
Well, for our friend John Williams McDonald,
John Wilkes Booth.
he doesn't.
Oh my God, it's John Wilkes Booth.
There is a reference to that.
Shut up!
In this story. It's like a monkey paw, and it's just like living with us now.
There was a booth in
I'm referencing a booth
your Frida
story.
Kahlo story.
I'm aware. There was no relation to that one.
I know,
though.
but it was still a booth.
There's a relation to this one now.
Jesus.
I know. It's so exciting.
I'm so
and
sick
has
of this.
nothing to do with Baltimore. Okay, so John Williams McDonald does not come back. He's gone forever.
Right.
But Eartha Kitt has her daughter now. It's 1964. I want to point out how revolutionary it is that Eartha Kitt, famous movie star, whatever, gets divorced in 1964.
Yeah.
You'd have to check my math on this a little bit, but I'm pretty sure in the state of California, no-fault divorce isn't even legal yet.
Whoa.
1964, women still can't get their own credit cards for another 8 years.
Honestly, I should never have been given a credit card, but that's like besides the point.
No, you're so good at earning points for the household.
Not really. Yeah, I mean,
They're for the household.
yeah, right.
So she gets divorced, but that's like not necessarily a huge deal, at least in terms of her career. She has this baby now. She's still working. She's making music. She's making movies, maybe moving a little bit slower now that she has a small one. But her child, Kit, says Eartha was incredibly attentive as a mother, always there, always doting on her, always taking care of her.
Sweet.
And then, if you knew a little bit about Eartha Kitt before I started this episode, the thing I'm about to tell you is probably the thing that you know about Eartha Kitt. And it happens in January of 1968.
Okay.
Okay, so here's what you need to know. January of 1968 is obviously the beginning of 1968.
What?
Which is an election year. But that election will happen in November.
Okay.
4 years earlier, in 1964, Lyndon B. Johnson, LBJ, won a massive landslide victory. Second, like, kind of only to FDR and Reagan.
Okay.
Like, huge mandate in 1964. Like, only a year after Kennedy is assassinated. It's that LBJ.
Right.
Okay? So January 1968 is the start of what is supposed to be his re-election campaign. In a couple of months, kind of at like the midpoint of the primaries, LBJ is going to go, actually, I'm not going to run for re-election. I'm out. Sorry about it. I probably should have decided that sooner. I'm out. And it causes the huge 1968 contested DNC in Chicago, which you probably know a lot about because of the events of this last summer. Like LBJ and Joe Biden are legitimately
Like
the
the same,
only two people who have abandoned a re-election campaign as
Once
president.
they've already gotten the primary.
Right. Plenty of like presidents have lost re-election.
Yeah.
But not many of them quit before even getting to election
Yeah.
day.
Did he win the primary?
The primary system was a little different back then.
Okay.
It wasn't like every state held a contest like it is now.
Yeah.
Primary wasn't done until the DNC, and he quit before the DNC, which is why there was this huge chaos at the DNC. Do you know what issue causes LBJ to leave
no
the
idea.
race? It's 1968,
I'm hoping it has something to do with Eartha Kitt.
the Vietnam War.
Oh.
In 1968, there is a chant that you can hear almost every day outside of the White House. Hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today?
Good God.
Correct, because there's two different horrors unfolding. I should have said trigger warning. Sorry, y'all. I'm so into the history. I'm kind of like, wait, what I'm about to say is horrific. Truly, +3 for the next like 3 minutes for discussions of war and violence. So in 1968 in America, there's 2 different kinds of horrors that like there's actually like multiple horrors, much like there is now. But
the horrors persist.
Correct. The one horror
Right.
is that the U.S. is carpet bombing Southeast Asia, Vietnam, North and South, Cambodia, Laos, although that will really increase under Nixon.
Yeah.
But there's like legitimate destruction of civilian property, death by civilians, things like that.
Right.
American soldiers in the Vietnam War are dying in kind of horrific ways, like booby traps, things like that, really kind of freaking out the American psyche. And third, and the driving horse behind all of this is that those American soldiers are not there by choice because they're not American soldiers by choice. This is the last war America fights where it utilizes a draft. And so in 1968, there's issues about the U.S. war in Vietnam, how it's being conducted, if we should even be there or not, etc. There's then further pushback that the draft is unfair. And that's this huge social issue as well. And LBJ, the same president who passed the Civil Rights Act, is about to be taken down because of foreign policy. And so now we go back to January of 1968.
Wow. The parallels are shocking.
It really is. It's a curse to know it. It's a curse.
Why?
Everyone's
Why
like,
are we here?
Hell yeah, girl. Maybe go ahead and button your tips up for the next 4 years. I don't think that attitude's all that free right now. Sorry.
Foreign policy is so fun.
It felt a little bit like that song from Twilight. No training, listener. Maya and I can just cue up in a second. You know, you can buy the house on Legos. Anyways.
What?
So all of those issues.
Oh, you buy the house. That's what you said.
Yeah,
you said it so
Twilight
fast
house.
that I was like,
I had to come out, but I also had to get back. So it just happened at the same time. So all those are currents, like absolutely festering in mainstream media or whatever.
Right.
But the LBJ campaign plan is like full steam ahead. It's not an issue at all. And so when
Jesus Christ.
First Lady, Lady Bird Johnson, hosts an event in January of 1968 to talk about getting youth off of the streets and reducing juvenile crime, a bunch of people are invited, including famous television actress
Eartha Kitt,
who basically raised herself, Eartha Kitt. And this is where we start the story. It's like LBJ is like still kind of running for office at the time because it's January. Like he hasn't dropped out yet.
When does he drop out?
It'll be like spring, early summer, late spring, kind of that area. Yeah. One of the most infamous moments of Eartha Kitt's career occurred in 1968 when she attended the White House luncheon hosted by First Lady, Lady Bird Johnson. And the fun thing about her name is that when you write it out that way, you get to write the word lady twice.
Lady Bird.
First Lady, Lady Bird Johnson.
Love that.
The event was meant to discuss issues facing the American youth, particularly juvenile delinquency and crime prevention. Also, because of Kitt's success, she had created a couple of foundations addressing this issue exactly. She
icon.
is correct.
Yeah.
It's the 1960s. She's like not even in her 40s yet.
Yeah.
Maybe she's 40 or 41. And she's like, let's philanthropy it up, right? So she goes to the White House like kind of an expert on this topic.
Yeah.
Or at least as much as you can given like what her role is.
She lived it too.
She lived it. She's actively working for it. She's like, she has anecdotal experience and data. Kitt was known for her outspokenness and activism, like known for that before she was invited.
Yeah.
And used the opportunity to directly challenge the Johnson administration's policies, especially around the Vietnam War.
Where is she today?
Let Lady Gaga finish her studio album,
Right.
she'll be there.
You're right.
She literally toured the Capitol after January 6th for us.
That's true.
I should do a Lady Gaga episode. Her remarks ignited
Write that down.
It's up. Her remarks ignited a firestorm of controversy that led to severe personal and professional consequences. So here's what happened.
Okay.
During the luncheon, First Lady, Lady Bird Johnson, Kate Dunham Dance Company, expressed concern about troubled youth in America, suggesting that family and community support were key solutions. Not necessarily wrong, but when Eartha Kitt was given the floor, she boldly criticized the U.S. government, arguing that the war in Vietnam was a major reason why young people were struggling. She pointed out that many young men, particularly from disadvantaged communities, were being sent to fight and die in a war they did not support.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's a bunch of different ways you could have gotten out of the draft at the time.
Mm-hmm.
If you were studying certain areas at school, like in college,
Right.
you could get out for it. If your family had enough money to send you to Canada, the U.S. federal government can't draft you if you were living in a different country.
Mm-hmm.
Or, for instance, if you have this like mysterious case of bone spurs and a bunch of extra money laying around and a doctor who will say you have a medical condition
Yep.
in exchange for that mysteriously large amount of money, and then years later, suddenly bone spurs aren't an issue when you decide to run for president.
Who could you possibly be talking about?
So here's what Kitt actually said that got her blacklisted for a decade.
To be her.
Quote.
From the White House? Or from
White
like
House,
America?
yes, also kind of America.
Okay.
The like exact terms are undefined, as Eartha Kitt would later explain when someone was like, yeah, after this incident, you got blacklisted. She goes, no, I got whitelisted. She says this. I want you to keep in mind that she basically has to leave the country for like half a decade and is uninvited from the White House for a full decade for this statement.
Oh, no.
You send the best of this country off to be shot and maimed. They rebel in the streets. They will take pot. They will get high. They don't want to go to school because they're going to be snatched off from their mothers to be shot in Vietnam. The children of America are not rebelling for no reason. There are not hippies for no reason at all. We don't have what we do have on Sunset Boulevard for no reason. They are rebelling against something. There are so many things burning the people of this country, particularly mothers. They feel they are going to raise sons, and I know what it's like, and you have children of your own, Miss Johnson. We raise children and send them to war. That's it.
Wow.
That's it. And Lady Bird Johnson is like,
Get out.
how dare you speak to me?
Girl, what?
You don't understand.
That's just like pure honesty and also the parallels.
No, I know. And like there are like many things I'm like fighting and dodging and weaving in the story. Like for instance, do you know who ends up running for the presidential nomination?
I don't know a damn thing about the 60s and 70s aside from what cults were active.
Robert Kennedy runs as soon as Johnson drops out, maybe even a little bit before. In his campaigning through Nebraska, my grandmother interviews him before he's assassinated in California later that winter. More on that evening. Later that same year. Thank you. It was that summer, not winter. Later that year, he's assassinated. Lyndon B. Johnson is the president that passes the Civil Rights Act.
Right.
A monumental piece of legislation. He also passes the Voting Rights Act. In terms of actual, like, tangible legislation that has changed race relations in America, those two pieces are huge. It is because of LBJ that Black people are, to a degree, extended the right to vote in the South. Obviously, disenfranchisement still happens.
Yes.
But like the kind of voter intimidation that happened before, like that becomes illegal and prosecuted.
Yes.
A lot of these southern states get put under the review of the Department of Justice because you're like, your history of racial segregation in politics is so bad, you can't be trusted to run your own politics.
Sweet Jesus.
That is passed by Johnson, right? Like elimination of publicly segregated facilities, like the kind of attempted full implementation of the Brown v. Board decision to desegregate schools. All of that is done by LBJ. But at the same time that he is truly like this warrior for racial justice, Eartha Kitt stands up and she goes, children are dying in a war they don't support. Lady Bird Johnson, you're a mother. I'm a mother. We raise these children to go to war. And the fact that a woman of color, a multiracial woman, said that to a white lady who was the first lady, Lady Bird Johnson, at the White House, blacklists her for a decade, right?
That's just, oh my God.
So it's this insanely complicated legacy around all of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because what they ultimately end up doing is hurting Eartha Kitt's ability to operate those nonprofits and charities
that are actually helping
on that problem. It actually is the reason why she's in that room in the first place.
I hate it here.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what happens when a rude child who I know is rude says something rude to me? I'm not shocked because I know what their behavior is.
Yes.
It's not like
Also,
Eartha Kitt like
she had
came
a
in,
legacy.
Right. It's not like Eartha Kitt came in being like Eartha Kitt for LBJ, hooray, hooray, right? Like she's an outspoken critic of the times.
Being soft-spoken about anything.
But you go back, and I'm sorry, but like you do go back to that Kristen Dunham Dance Company, and she knows she can live on her own elsewhere.
Yeah.
So for the second time in her life,
she
flees to Paris.
Nice.
Yes.
Hell yeah. God, imagine her speaking French. That voice would sound so good in French.
Do you want to hear it in French?
Yeah.
I was playing the song just the other day when I was putting together this.
Oh.
This is Eartha Kitt.
I don't know how she gets that quality of her voice. It's just like, it's like infuriating. There's a reason that it's so notable.
It's so interesting. You just immediately want to hear it and like listen to it. But what's also so noticeable about it, I think at least, is the range. Like that's so buttery smooth.
Yeah.
She like 2 months before she dies, because she is dead. She was born in 1927. Like 2 months before she dies, she's performing at like jazz concerts in California.
Incredible.
I know. But then also you think of like her famous voice acting roles like Yzma. Yzma's not a soft, buttery character voice.
Oh.
Famously not, actually.
Yeah.
And so just this incredible voice talent.
Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh,
her remarks stunned the room because they were honest.
And came from a disenfranchised person.
Correct. And was like, hey, I actually think it's not mother's fault that these children don't want to die in a war. I think it's war's fault.
It's your fault for sending them there.
Right, exactly. Well, also, and I really am pulling back the leash like as hard as I can.
Yeah.
But like in the late 1960s when America is fighting the Vietnam War,
right,
the British Empire is seeing a lot of its former colonial, the word is colonial holdings, but all these countries that they were oppressing colonially are like gaining their independence or declaring independence. And the British Empire is like kind of collapsing in that sense.
Oh, no.
And so I know. And so while that is happening, a lot of people in America are like, Great Britain is losing its empire and America's trying to build one. And like in the same year, you know? Why are we doing this? And so there's just so much going on, and none of it's changed over the last.
I just had the most unhinged thought.
Go ahead, Maya. You might need to cut this.
My father, the inventor of colonialism.
It's actually Uncle Sam.
Okay,
get it?
Well, I was thinking
Uncle Sam.
The British Empire is like the father. Yeah, sure, I get it.
Oh, and we're the child.
Yeah.
Wait, that's actually so clever.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I just accepted it as a Mean Girls joke, but it works on 2 levels.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Eartha Kitt. Multi-talented. I'm
funny sometimes.
So her remarks apparently visibly shake Lady Bird Johnson, and even has tears in her eyes.
Oh my God.
Apparently the First Lady even said, quote, "Because you feel so strongly, I am glad you have spoken your piece." But the damage was done. Within hours, Kitt's comments were national headlines, and the backlash was swift.
At least it wasn't First Lady Lady Bird Johnson.
Thank you. Say it right.
Saying like immediately like get out of my house.
Right.
Do we think it was her saying like that instigated the order to like, or I don't know, instigated the order for her to leave?
Like the leak?
Yeah.
And I have a couple things to tell you in the next 2 paragraphs.
Okay.
Following the incident, Eartha Kitt faced severe repercussions.
Yeah.
She was blacklisted in the United States, with major performance venues and television networks canceling her appearances. And then, by direction of First Lady Lady Bird Johnson and President Johnson, the CIA begins to follow and spy on her.
Yeah, because that's the threat that you need to be worrying about.
Right. Want to know where the radical views come from.
The woman with all the nonprofits helping your disenfranchised youth on the streets.
How dare you say that people don't want to die for this country? This country has given you nothing. like for reals, like at no point did any governmental system like help her.
Yeah.
She, by luck of her own talent and voice, was able to get like a dancing scholarship.
Yeah.
But like, sorry, not to make this such a politically serious. It wasn't supposed to be. It was like Emperor's New Groove, bigger quotes. But it's like,
it's just a lot.
Right. I think Eartha Kitt's very aware
that
there are thousands, millions of Eartha Kitts who didn't have the voice
Yeah.
or who didn't have the break, and who received also
She's
zero
aware
help.
of the privilege that she
Yeah,
has it.
the privilege,
yeah.
the luck, just like, I mean, she dedicates foundations to working with people with her exact same backstory who just did not manage to roll the exact combination you needed to get out.
Yeah.
So the CIA begins compiling a dossier on her, branding her as a, quote, sadistic nymphomaniac in an effort to discredit her. For nearly a decade, Kitt was unable to find work in the U.S., forcing her to continue her career in Europe, where she remained a celebrated performer.
Oh, Jesus.
They were basically like, this Eartha Kitt woman likes having too much sex. And also, like, you know, was mean to a white lady once when she was like, you and I were mothers. Like, can you get a load of that?
And also sadistic for some
Yes.
fucking reason.
Despite the backlash, Kitt never backed down from her beliefs.
Good.
In later years, she reflected on the incident with pride, maintaining that she had spoken the truth. Eventually, she made a comeback in the U.S., proving that her resilience and talent could not be silenced. The 1968 controversy remains a defining moment in her legacy, cementing her as both a fearless activist and an artist ahead of her time. So she moves to Europe, continues her career. Eventually, she moves back to the United States because President Jimmy Carter invites her to the White House in January of 1978.
Oh, wow.
Almost
Literal
exactly
decade.
a decade later, to attend a reception honoring
Oh,
the
Jesus.
10th anniversary of the reopening of Ford's Theater.
Shut up.
It's like literally in every story, somehow or another, there's Booth or Lincoln in like every story.
I don't know how you do it.
I'm not trying to
I know.
do it. It's like I obviously in the story need to tell the part where she comes back. When does she come back? You gotta be shitting me.
Yeah.
Which means they opened it the year she was blacklisted.
Oh, my God.
First Lady Bird Johnson is like, no, you are not going to take down another president the same year we open up Ford's Theater. And then 4 months later, Johnson was like, I'm out.
Yeah. And that's all from me, folks.
I know. So, like,
Jesus.
I think what's really powerful about Eartha Kitt's moment in this time specifically is that, at least reading it today, it doesn't come across as hostile. Maybe tone and pace, as my speech could tell you, changes the delivery and meaning completely. But at least reading it, you're like, this isn't even mean. You're not even necessarily blaming the Johnson administration.
Yeah.
You're just like
stating facts.
yeah, like a fact that like the Quakers believe, which is like people don't want to be forced or compelled into violence. And when
For a
it's
cause they don't believe in.
right.
Yeah.
And so if the option is that or drugs, and the one that feels better is drugs,
They're gonna do drugs.
Exactly. And she's like, and aren't you concerned? We're both moms. And she was like, you better move out.
Yeah.
Okay. Because me and my husband are going to Ford's Theater
Yeah,
tonight.
and we're opening Ford's Theater. Jesus.
Because like what actually ends up happening and what major newspapers don't understand at the time is that the resentment towards the Vietnam War is actually like very, very deep happening at the time. And the unfortunate thing is the Democratic candidate in 1968 kind of gets branded as this like hippie loving free love movement.
Who was it? Do you know?
I think it's Hubert Humphreys, who was the former vice president, or the vice president under Johnson. I don't feel confident about that though. Could be.
That's okay. You know more than me. I didn't know when half of these people were president. Past like
Can we pause for just 10 seconds? I want to see if I got that right. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
past like the first Bush, I don't know who was president when.
Richard Nixon defeated Hubert Humphrey. Yep, I got it right.
Oh, nice.
Hooray! Sorry. So Humphrey gets branded as this like free-loving, hippie-loving. The Democrats can't govern. Like, did you watch their convention in Chicago? Right, there was like clashes with police. That's not good at all. And then Nixon is like, I represent the silent majority. and we should probably get out of Vietnam. And that's who people vote for, right?
Yep.
And then Nixon discovers a hard truth that LBJ already knew, which is that it's hard to end a war.
Some other politicians are also finding that out right now.
Yeah.
And instead of ending the war, threatening to buy the land and then open a resort.
And what's actually even crazier is that the president that you actually should have drawn a comparison to, I mean, that was good.
Yeah.
And that was current events accurate.
Yeah.
But like President Biden pulling American troops out of Afghanistan, which every single American voter wanted, and then as soon as it happened, hated him for it, right? Like,
we wanted it, he just did it wrong.
How dare you make me eat these vegetables? My skin looks amazing, right? It's kind of like anyways. She's proven right. And newspapers find that out too, that there's actually a growing anti-war sentiment in America at the time. And a lot of the anti-war sentiment is not necessarily like loudly on the streets protesting and going off to San Francisco and like doing acid and things like that. But they don't want their kids to go off to war. They don't understand why Americans have to die over there. They don't necessarily understand what they have against the Vietnamese and why we would be killing so many of them, right? And so she's also ends up becoming celebrated because she said what America was probably actually thinking at the time, and the major political power makers and the people who ran like the newspapers and news outlets like failed to grasp at the time.
I'm just realizing I don't know what the cause of the Vietnam War was.
I just love that this episode's about the voice of Yzma from her listening group. That's a really complicated question, but I can answer it for you actually in like 20 seconds.
Excellent.
France used to colonize Southeast Asia.
Okay.
France leaves Southeast Asia in the years after World War II because the Southeast Asians are like, you get out of here.
Yeah.
And so the countries are, I mean, there's like a whole civil war that happens to force the French to leave.
Yes. Good.
And then so these countries then kind of like redeclare independence, and there's North and South Vietnam.
Right.
And that's kind of an international peace treaty agreement.
Right.
The North will be communist and the South will be vaguely capitalist and democratic.
Like Korea?
Yes, exactly like the Koreans.
Okay.
And then also exactly like the Koreans, a war breaks out.
Okay.
Because these were not two separate countries.
Yeah,
It's the same people have now been separated into two countries. And the one way or the other, they will be one country. In Korea, there's a ceasefire. In Vietnam, there isn't.
And then we just send people over there?
Correct. To help Vietnam, South Vietnam, who are our allies because capitalist and democratic. And then that war starts to go poorly. So we send more, and then we send more. And then it's this issue where like the more we send, it's still not accomplishing. Like it's still not accomplishing anything. And the pressure at home builds. But like maybe if we just had like a little bit more, then it really will accomplish what we need it to do, because we don't understand why we're losing. And we're losing because like a whole bunch of reasons that are super complicated. And then America kind of does what we do in Vietnam, which is, in Afghanistan, which is like, okay, we have now trained our local allies. Here's all of our weapons. And then we leave, and like, as we're leaving, the whole thing's collapsing. And America's glad to be out of the war. And it's now in the early 1970s.
Somewhere in the comments, let us know how long that actually was.
And I skipped so much. I really did. Like, I skipped war crimes in that summary.
I know you did.
And I hope you guys know that I am aware that is, like, there is human suffering that I am not mentioning there. In the
Don't
name
worry,
of brevity.
I won't make that a reel.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So, Eartha comes back, helps reopen our 10th anniversary of Ford's Theater, and now we're
that's where we were.
Right, yes, exactly. And so now we're moving from 1978 in the Carter administration, we're now moving into the 1980s, where she is confident and internationally popular and still releasing music and doing movies, and she has her daughter who is now in her 20s and just kind of like really takes off. And like no life is marked with no tragedy, like at every turn, right? Like there are things that happen, but like this seems to start kind of the golden years of Eartha Kitt, because a U.S. president welcomes her back to America, and things take off. In 1984, Kitt returned to the music charts with a disco song titled "Where Is My Man?"
Ooh.
The first certified gold record of her career. Where Is My Man reached the top 40 of the UK singles chart, where it peaked at number 36. The song became a standard in discos and dance clubs of the time and made it to the top 10 on the US Billboard Dance Chart and reached number 7.
Wow.
She then released an album titled I Love Men. And
Okay.
I love you, Eartha Kitt, so much. Where Is My Man by Eartha Kitt. You're not even ready for that, are you?
No. What was that sound?
I think like a growl.
Oh, I could get down to this in a club now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Okay. Me at 11 p.m. outside of Sloan's Lake driving home tonight.
Yeah.
Just voguing. And then we'll jump to the center of the song. Oh, a
incredible.
little smoke. It's not a little smoke. I mean, a little fog machine is what I was trying to say, but who knows what I said. Little fog machine, shirts off, tucked into the like back pocket or whatever, right?
Yeah.
We're all swirling around, half drank gin and tonics, right?
Yeah.
I can't wait for summer. I can't wait to not have responsibilities.
I want to, like, over the years, I want to go back and see when the first time you say, I can't wait for the summer is, because I have an inkling it happens around the same time every year.
It's the actual Punxsutawney Phil.
Yeah, you're, yes.
Saw this meme and it was like me talking to aliens. And the rodent, yes, he is clairvoyant.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Did you see PETA wants to replace it with a cake?
I don't even know where to start with that story.
There's nothing to start with. It's just funny. Like a gender reveal cake.
Do we have time to do that on the next Patreon? Maya and Grant reveal their predictions for spring.
Based on a cake.
Mine has just
we
Malibu
baked.
Barbie in it. Summer's right around the corner. And we're back. Eartha Kitt loves men. She loves men so much the title of her record album is I Love Men. Kitt found, I actually can't see. I've been laughing a little bit. There we go. Kitt found new audiences in nightclubs across the UK and the United States, including a whole new generation of gay fans. And she responded by frequently giving performance benefits in support of HIV/AIDS research and support organizations. Kitt's 1989 follow-up, Cha-Cha Heels, featuring Bronski Beat, which was originally intended to be recorded by Divine, received a positive response from UK dance clubs and hit number 32 on the charts. In 1988, Kitt replaced Dolores Gray in the West End production of Stephen Sondheim's Follies as Carlotta, receiving standing ovations every night for her rendition of I'm Still Here at the beginning of Act 2. Kitt went on to perform her own one-woman show at the Shaftesbury Theatre, the sold-out houses for 3 weeks in the early 1989s.
Wow.
So she's putting out music in 1988, 1989. Doing the math in my head here real quick, she is 61 when she sang that song.
What a baller.
I know. My parents are 61 right now, and the idea of my mom
Getting into disco?
Yeah, well, they love ABBA. That wouldn't shock me. But to start an album where you do like a cougar growl at the beginning, it's just,
Yeah.
But that's who Eartha Kitt always was.
I like to imagine that her daughter is at first a little embarrassed and then proud,
I think so.
Like, Jesus,
they have a really interesting and beautiful relationship. But so this is coming out in 1988, 89. She's doing promotional work for her album. And then this is the second clip of hers that you might have seen. You can adjust the volume. This is an interview that is happening basically around this time when her albums are coming out.
Can anyone live with Eartha Kitt?
That's not for me to decide. That's for someone who decides to live with me to decide. Not for me.
But are you willing to compromise within a relationship?
To compromise? What is compromising? Compromising for what? Compromising for what reason? To compromise for what?
Like legitimately pisses
What is
her off.
compromise?
If a man came into your life, wouldn't you want to
Oh,
compromise?
her eyes are pissed.
Stupid.
Stupid.
A man comes into my life and I have to compromise? You must think about that one again.
Interviewers must hate like being assigned to her.
They have to like hate and love it because like you're going to do all your little interview prep work ahead of time,
and
right?
none of it's gonna matter.
None of it's going to matter at
Yeah.
all, right? You're going to be like, because like, like the interview is basically saying, Eartha Kitt, your album is entitled "I Love Men," but can a man love you? Of course they can. Are you willing to compromise? No, dumbass. No.
Say it in a mirror. It's gotten more and more accurate.
I share when I'm out of town now. That's a huge step for me.
I know, and slowly we're getting there.
You know who never had to get there?
Eartha Kitt.
Yeah, Eartha Kitt never had to get there.
That's fair.
I could voice Yzma. Not well, but I could do it.
The other interview that you showed, the one from like previous or from earlier on in her life,
Yeah.
there's another like part of it where they're like, do you want to, I don't remember what it was, phrasing something about a relationship. And she was like, I like to be alone.
Uh-huh. As Whoopi Goldberg once said, I don't want a man in my house.
Yeah, that's like effectively what she said. And I was like, yes, queen. When was that interview? The first one?
So her first interview, the one that we heard earlier in the episode, right around the time where she is Catwoman, where she's in these movies. So
before she's kind of blacklisted.
yes, it's
Okay.
before the Lady Bird Johnson
Yeah.
thing, 1950s, early 1960s,
Cool.
you know. And so then to see that, and it's beautiful to see the growth, but also like
She got married for like what, 3 years, 4 years, and then
Yes.
was like never
married
again.
just long enough to
have-
respectfully have the love of her life,
Yeah.
her daughter. I think like if the teacher in me is like awakening right now,
Yeah.
because I would show if this was a lesson, I would show both of those clips,
Yeah.
and ask them to compare and contrast the author's POV, since it's the same author, just like 30 years removed,
Yeah.
because both are sure of themselves.
Oh, yeah.
and both are aware they don't need like a man, but the way they express that
Oh, that's really
is
good.
so different in those two ways.
That's really good.
Yeah, because Eartha Kitt in both interviews knows
I get why
she's
you're good at your
lovable.
job. Took a couple years, but we got there.
Yeah, same. Took me a couple years to get there. Yeah, I get it. But you know, because it's like how she presents the love she has for herself,
Mm-hmm.
the appreciation she has for men, but the like assuredness that she does not need them.
Mm-hmm.
Like those emotions are there, just expressed very differently.
Very
right?
differently,
She did
yeah.
not put her feet on the interviewer's lap that second time around.
No,
You know,
no.
She laughed in his face, like loudly and kind of ruefully.
Yeah.
Whereas in the first one, she's still laughing in the interviewer's face.
She's more comfortable with like silence.
Yes.
She's on her back foot waiting for
Yes.
his action, and on that one, she's like, she's not as much.
It's like in that first interview, she wants the interview to laugh with her,
Mm-hmm.
and the second one, she's just like, "Oh, to me, that's funny," you know.
beautiful. Yeah, I love that.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit now about her activism, and then we're going to talk about her relationship with her daughter here at the end. Because, like, you know, how do you tell a story like Eartha Kitt, right? So you kind of do like the biographical stuff, which I covered, and then, of course, throughout this entire time, inspired largely by her experience as a child, and also just her like deep sympathy for the world. In fact, according to her daughter, Eartha Kitt was a strong believer that everything had a right to exist and a place in the universe. And so just because a
What?
bug looks ugly and might bite you does not give you the right to kill it. Like,
Oh my
kind of
God.
stuff. I know.
It's almost like if people look different and act different and come from different backgrounds, then maybe we shouldn't ostracize them and other them and then send them out of our country for no reason. Sorry, that came out of nowhere.
No, no current event context for that. Kitt was active in numerous social causes, beginning basically at the start of her fame in the 1950s and 60s. In 1966, she established the Kittsville Youth Foundation, a chartered and nonprofit organization for underprivileged youths in the Watts area of Los Angeles. Kitt was also involved in groups of youths in the area of Anacostia in Washington, D.C., who called themselves Rebels with a Cause. She supported the group's efforts to clean up streets and establish rec centers in an effort to keep them out of trouble by testifying with them for the House General Subcommittee on Education of the Committee on Education.
Wow, that was a lot of words.
And labor.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad it didn't end.
In her testimony in May 1967, so before the Lady Bird Johnson incident, First Lady Lady Bird Johnson, Kitt stated that the rebels' achievements and accomplishments should certainly make the adult do-gooders realize that these young men and women have performed in one short year with limited finances that which was not achieved by the same people who might object to turning over some of the duties of planning, rehabilitation, and prevention of juvenile delinquents and juvenile delinquency to those who understand it and are living it. So that quote, which was long, was basically saying, in 1 year, these young people, with nothing helping them, accomplished more than what you key holders have done. And you key holders refuse to turn the power, even a little bit of that power,
to the people that are affecting
affecting
change.
by it and are aware of it and live it.
Yeah.
And the Lady Bird Johnson was like, how dare you?
Get out of my country.
Be exactly who you are.
Yeah.
Kitt added that, quote, the rebels could act as a model for all urban areas throughout the United States with similar problems. Rebels with a Cause subsequently received the needed funding. Kitt was also a member of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. Her criticism of the Vietnam War and its connection to poverty and racial unrest in 1968 can be seen as part of a larger commitment to peace activism. Like many politically active public figures of her time, Kitt was under surveillance by the CIA. And that surveillance, which definitely amped up in 1968, began in 1956, 12
Jesus.
years before that.
Oh my gosh.
After the New York Times discovered the CIA file on Kitt in 1975, she granted the New York Times permission to print portions of the report, stating, quote, I have nothing to be afraid of, and I have nothing to hide.
If you can't say that,
I know.
Consider.
Yeah. If you're like, am I helping our current government erase factually accurate information from public access? Reflect on if that feels good tonight.
And also, if you maybe think that you have a right to government documents that might incriminate you in something, and then you put them in your bathroom because you don't want other people to find them, and then you get mad and call persecution when they do find them, consider.
He was acquitted for that. Sorry.
Now it's not the time, too soon. This episode's going to be real confusing in a couple years.
I know. It's like going to be a DBQ. It's going to be a primary source document
what
for
were
what's
they talking
happening
about?
right now. Like, read these 18 tweets and one book that they didn't burn and try to understand this podcast specifically about a woman who was dead about a different political time. History, like, listen, I'm not even joking. Historians love like this. One last thing before I continue on with the rest of the story. When the United States was building the first nuclear weapon, it was called the Manhattan Project. And if you were to walk into certain buildings in this country with a bucket of sand, you could go to jail forever.
Sand?
Because if you poured it into the machinery, it would break it.
Oh.
Kind of forever. And that's where the, a grain of sand or like sand in the gears comes from. And all I'm saying is,
it's not from the Unabomber like weirdly destroying all of his neighbors' farm equipment with sand one night.
No, it's where he got the idea from.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, what we should all know.
Monet just tried to scratch with her leg that's not there. I saw her little stub moving.
Do you need a moment?
No, it was just really sweet.
We should all know at this point, we're all gears in this machine. And how quickly we turn is a personal choice. Okay, so
Jesus Christ, real poetic lately.
resist. Creates better art. Kitt later became a vocal advocate for LGBT rights and publicly supported same-sex marriage, which she considered a civil right. She'd been quoted as saying, quote, "I support it because we're asking for the same thing. If I have a partner and something happens to me, I want that partner to enjoy the benefits of what we have reaped together. It's a civil rights thing, isn't it?" Kitt famously appeared at many LGBT fundraisers, including a mega event in Baltimore, Maryland, with George Burns and Jimmy James. No idea who those two are, but I'm sure they were big.
Yeah.
Scott Sherman, an agent at Atlantic Entertainment Group, stated, "Eartha Kitt is fantastic, appears at so many LGBT events in support of civil rights." And then Kitt said this in an interview with Dr. Anthony Clare in 1992. Kitt says this, "We're all rejected people. We know what it is to be refused. We know what it is to be oppressed, depressed, and then accused. And I'm very much cognizant of that feeling. Nothing in the world is more painful than rejection. I am rejected, oppressed person, and so I understand them as best as I can, even though I'm not a homosexual."
Hell yeah, brother.
Just like the deeply empathizing experience
Yeah.
of being otherwised at a very early age.
Otherized.
Yes.
Otherwise.
Otherwise, at a very early age. We're getting now into our very final section. So heads up, kind of final trigger warning for discussion of death, especially from an intimate and personal level. There's not more information after this. So if you're happy with what you know about the life and times of Eartha Kitt and
See
don't
you next
necessarily
week.
need to hear us bubble on at the end, yeah, we'll see you next week. I can't wait to hear part 1 of...
Nope. Part 2 of Untamed.
You're
babe.
right. Yep. Sorry. I've just already started to slot into my head
That
the
you're
next
doing,
episode
yeah.
I need to do. Yeah. Part 2 of Untamed. So with that, if you're gone, we
It's
understand.
like that story is
Yeah, we're still-
nowhere close to being right.
Good. Because same. This is now from her daughter, Kitt, on the last couple of days Eartha Kitt was alive. Quote, "I was with her when she died. She left this world literally screaming at the top of her lungs."
I'm sorry, what?
Like
And I
one,
don't doubt it at all.
no, like literally one evening she started screaming, and her daughter screamed back, "It's okay, we got it. It's okay, you can go." But like, doesn't seem like in an angry way. Just as
like
in
kind
like
of scared.
no, like in a I'm Eartha fucking Kitt kind of
Yeah.
way. I think her daughter continues at the top of her lungs. "I was with her constantly. She lived not even 3 miles from my house. We were together practically every day.
Aw.
She was home for the last few weeks when the doctor told us there was nothing they could do anymore. Up until the last 2 days, she was still moving around. The doctor told us she will leave very quickly and her body will just start to shut down. But when she left the world with a bang. She left it how she lived it. She screamed her way out of here, literally. I truly believe her survival instincts were so part of her DNA that she was not going to go quietly or willingly. It was just the two of us hanging out those last few days. She was very funny. We didn't have to talk because I always knew how she felt about me. I was the love of her life. So the last part of her life, we didn't have to have those heart-to-heart talks. We just talked. She started to see people who weren't there.
Oh.
She thought I could see them too, but of course I couldn't. So I would just instead make fun of her and say things like, I'm going to go to the other room and you stay here and talk with your friends. Eartha Kitt died on Christmas Day in 2008.
Oh, that's very sweet.
I know.
Grant's about to cry.
Well, no, I'm just trying to time it out to where I can say wrong lover.
Fair enough. I love that, I love that the relationship between them was just so solid that there wasn't any angst or
Yeah.
fear. At least that this is what she said. So obviously there could be some stuff that she's not saying out loud or sharing. But
Right.
the fact that she felt so comfortable and Eartha felt so comfortable that it was just it's just another day.
Yeah. We're just here together, right?
Yeah.
Hanging out.
What was the cause of death, or was it just old age? Sounds like it was.
It
like
sounds like it was old
thing.
age. I think it was a cancer of some kind.
Okay.
But she was performing like 2-3 months up until her death.
Damn.
Like was performing, and then this is kind of crazy to say. The last time Eartha Kitt, either her voice or her appearance, appeared on television, was 2 years after she died, in an episode of The Simpsons.
That's the real Abraham Lincoln of our generation. It's everywhere.
Oh, I really know. I think she had recorded some stuff for them because she plays herself in the episode of The Simpsons and was recorded, obviously, like when she was alive.
Yeah.
And so as I was like finishing up some stuff today after dinner, I'm like scrolling through, like, you know, you do that thing where you're like, let's go over, is there any interesting tidbits that I can like maybe pick out a little bit? And so I'm going through her like film and discography and television appearances, and I'm scrolling down, and there's one that says 2010, and I'm like, how? Because like I'm immediately like, I got her death date wrong then, right? Like I'm like, of the details that get right, get that one right. Yeah. You know? Like
what year did she die?
2008.
Okay.
December.
Jesus.
Yeah, December 25th, 2008. And she would have been 81. I was like, oh, did I get it wrong? And then I like zoomed in and it was like released posthumously. Like after her death. And I was like, oh, well, good for her, you know?
Hell yeah.
And that's about recording ahead of time.
Yeah.
And we understand.
And we know that. And I've always said that.
You really have.
I really have. That's half my anxiety.
So Eartha Kitt is she's cool. She's the, you know, sometimes you do these stories and you're like, and I need this like lesson to be like, here you go.
Yeah.
Right. Like, let me put it in your hand. Right. Like Dr. Ruth, there's stuff there, like Reality Winner. Obviously there's like takeaways. I just think Eartha Kitt had a cool life. And I think it's so funny the ways people know her. Yeah. You know? Because you knew Eartha Kitt as Madame Zamboni, and you knew Eartha Kitt as Yzma, and you probably didn't know that was the same Eartha Kitt. I had no idea. And she was in like episodes of like Wild Thornberrys. She played a lot of fortune tellers. She
has that kind
career.
Of voice,
yes,
you know?
Of the like, I've seen the future and it's haunting. Here, let me tell you.
You should be afraid of me, but also kind of like want to talk to me.
Yeah.
I bet she was a woo.
Especially with her voice. Yeah. I think she was a great time. I think she was a crack and a half, you know? I mean, if you can get the French to like you have to be pretty entertaining.
That's real.
There's also like, I'll read stories sometimes of artists that fled to Paris for a little bit. Thank you. I said fled, didn't I?
You did.
I should have just said flee to Paris, and then I would have been right, or fled to Paris. But instead, I chose to be wrong. That's really proud of me.
Yeah, sure, you chose.
It's choice. As I told a kid today, well, like the words are coming out of your mouth, so I don't know what you think I'm supposed to do. I'm looking at this kid and I'm like, enunciate. And they're like, I literally can't, mister. And I'm like, they are coming out of your mouth. Yes, you can.
You could do it, I promise.
If I was asking you to get them to enunciate, but it's your saying. Anyways, you'll see these stories of these artists who flee to Paris, and you're just like, oh, I need to do that sometime. And then it's like, no, I don't. Nothing there is air conditioned. There's none of those rooms have any airflow. Why do you think 3/4 of their restaurants are on the sidewalk?
Well, we have to go in the springtime.
So
I think.
true. I heard that's when Paris is best, is in the spring.
Yeah, I mean, I just need to go. I need to travel places when AC and heat are not a critical factor.
Right.
I think that's what I need to do, because I've only gone to Europe in the summer, and that's been a source of problem.
It's great if you're in the Mediterranean, not great if you're anywhere else. I will say this too. I think it's so funny. You and I are so, I think, deprived of moisture and rainfall during the year that we're like, oh, wouldn't it be great to go to like London and Dublin and Paris during the spring? And everyone's like, it rains all the time. And we're like, I know, isn't that wonderful?
That would be so amazing.
Like they're all in Spain. Then we're all like, yes, the rain in Spain is nothing.
I went
like
to the dentist and like they literally had to put Vaseline. I have like the corner of my lip is cracked. You know when that happens?
Yes, I do.
And it's Colorado, so like my lips are always a little chapped, but they had to put like Vaseline on my lips before like doing my teeth. I was like, I hate it here.
I'm aware that this is as moisturized as I physically can be. I have desk lotion. I have work bag lip balm, car lip balm, bedroom lip balm. I have bedroom lotion, and I drink an entire Stanley cup of water at work every single day. And I'm still like
dry.
You know?
With love, that's how I know that you weren't born here. That's actually my litmus test for if someone was born here. If they're constantly like, you need to be putting on chapstick all the time in Colorado and like you don't have lotion on you right now. I'm like, no, I was born here. I feel weird when it's humid.
I love how dry it is here, but I am also like, maybe that's a Patreon comment. And that's the life of Eartha Kitt, and she would understand that. Anyways, any final takeaways?
No, I love the women that like did not grow up with social norms, and so they just became whoever the hell they wanted, like Dr. Ruth and Eartha Kitt, and they're just such a vibe.
I love it because whenever I do like a human interest piece, if I'm doing a woman, I'm like, let me introduce you to the most beautiful, misunderstood person you have
I was
ever
literally
heard
just
of
thinking
before.
about this.
And the 2 times I've done a man, I'm like, get a load of this freak. It was Victor Hugo and Sylvester Graham, the graham cracker.
We need to get back to our. I actually am doing a man in one of my upcoming episodes. Yeah.
Ooh, you do more men than I do.
I know, because I think they're funny and stupid.
Well,
with love, obviously.
I mean, we are.
Obviously.
So tune in for that next week.
I'm going to get canceled for that. We're not famous enough to get canceled.
Do something to piss Tucker Carlson off at least once a day.
I like that.
Yeah. It's my morning serenity prayer.
I will piss Tucker Carlson off today.
Yeah. So with that, friends, thank you for joining us. Hope you appreciate it, and we'll see you next week.
Yep.
If you would like more of us, you can find us on social media where we are Well I Laughed Podcast. You can write in listener stories for either Untamed or our next theme, Triple Threat.
Yes.
To wellilaughtedpod@gmail.com. Or you can request the perfect gift for the person that's difficult to buy for, about 2.5 minutes of us directly to that person on Cameo.
Good.
And until then, I'm going to keep breaking things.
Okay, bye. Love you.